Let's talk, shall we, about the podcast of the week. The Confessions of a Female Founder. This is Meghan's second attempt to enter the wonderful world of being a podcast interviewer. First let's get your view. You've listened to the podcast, I've listened to it now. That's 50 minutes or so of sheer tedium I'll never get back. Your thoughts on this extraordinarily tedious, dull podcast?
Well, Joe Rogan's not losing any sleep. Joe Rogan's not worried about Meghan Markle dominating the charts anymore. And it really gives you a good idea. It gives you some insight into the machine that is Spotify and the hard work they put into marketing her original podcast, the billboard they gave her in New York in Times Square, some of the placements, some of the media placements she had under the Spotify umbrella. You know, Spotify convinced us that something interesting was on the horizon, that something of value was on the horizon. So she did have more people tune in to the premiere of Archetypes, and she did, for at least 24 hours, throw Joe Rogan off of his podcasting throne. But here we have Meghan barely cracking the top 10. In Canada, in America, she's at 6, she's at 11. I believe in the UK.
Let's be honest. Spotify didn't part ways with Meghan because they feared her brilliance would outshine Joe Rogan. They pulled the plug because trying to extract insight from her interviews is like trying to find protein in a cotton candy. And when you strip away the PR gloss, all that's left is a self-referential loop of ideation and essence talk that belongs more in a goop catalog than a serious media space. Coming in 57th in Australia for a former Duchess with a global platform? That's not underperformance. It's a full-blown referendum on relevance. If Meghan's essence is the foundation of her consumer brand, someone ought to recall the product. And let's talk about that fruit spread, which can't even meet the sugar requirements to qualify as jam. Fitting, really. A metaphor for everything the Sussex brand has become. Style over substance, sentiment over sincerity, packaging over purpose. The only thing Meghan's podcast is bottling is unearned self-importance, and consumers, bless them, are not stupid. They can sniff the difference between an actual brand-building conversation and a glorified diary entry. What's that sound? Oh, just the clanging of manufactured vulnerability smashing into opportunistic PR.
Isn't it? It's boring.
I just imagine these two brushing each other's hair and, in their pajamas. Nothing about this says I need to listen to this on a regular basis because it's going to help me grow as a person. Meghan has an incredible skill, aside from her calligraphy, which, I am actually into. She has an incredible skill of surrounding herself with people that sit there and just ooh and ah over her greatness. I mean, it's incredibly impressive over the last few months between With Love Meghan and this new podcast that she has managed to find people that will sit there for half an hour to an entire hour talking about how great she truly is.
It's astonishing.
That's not good TV. That's not good radio. That's not good podcasting. There's, I think that it's also not what she promised. She delivered, a testimonial to her how wonderful she is when she promised us that she was going to give us some legitimate insight into how to create a brand and how to create a successful business.
Suddenly, Meghan has her own medical emergency to reveal, right after headlines emerge about Princess Catherine's health. The timing? Coincidental if you live in Neverland. But for the rest of us, it's clear. The spotlight isn't something Meghan shies away from. It's her life source. And let's call a spade a spade. Using deeply personal medical disclosures as narrative currency while lecturing the public on boundaries is not brave. It's manipulative. Privacy is her safe word, but only when the press wants answers she didn't pre-approve. Harry's turned the High Court into his personal tantrum arena. I want what William has might be the most honest thing he's never said out loud, but his actions scream it. This isn't about safety. If it were, he wouldn't be flying into actual war zones like Ukraine with a camera crew in tow. It's not the lack of police protection that's galling. It's the expectation of inherited privilege without any of the responsibilities. When you ditch the uniform, you don't get to keep the medals. But Harry's clinging to the ghost of a title like a royal lioness with a designer blanket. It's not just childish, it's expensive. Taxpayer-funded court battles over a vanity dispute? That's not security. That's vanity with a legal team. Harry flew in just as his father was flying out. Coincidence? Possibly, but given the pattern, more likely it's a royal snub with extra air miles. Even Charles, the man who spent decades waiting to be king, is tired of Harry's "I want attention, but not accountability" routine. Meanwhile, Meghan's service to humanity has boiled down to flogging overpriced knot jam on a site that sounds like it was cooked up at a Burning Man wellness retreat. All that talk of global impact, and it turns out the only thing they've successfully launched is a boutique brand of shortbread and melodrama. The royal escape was pitched as a journey toward meaningful change. What we got instead? A soap opera in designer wrapping, complete with a podcast no one asked for, and a website that's about as revolutionary as a Pinterest board. It's hard to ignore how Harry and Meghan have transformed personal grievances into a cottage industry. We're no longer dealing with royals stepping back. We're witnessing the full monetization of victimhood. Whether it's a documentary, a memoir, or a podcast, the formula stays the same. Package trauma, add buzzwords, sell to the highest bidder. And yet, for people who insist their lives were unfairly scrutinized, they're remarkably comfortable reliving every detail in public. At some point, it stops being advocacy and starts looking like an emotional business model. Let's not confuse this with bravery. Bravery is speaking up to uplift others. What we're seeing here is storytelling with a billing address. Confessions of a Female Founder is positioned as a fresh start, something new. But let's be honest, it's archetypes in a different dress. Same monologue-driven structure, same inability to engage meaningfully with a guest, same insistent return to Meghan as the gravitational center of the conversation. It's like rebooting a show that flopped in its first season and pretending it was critically acclaimed. Spotify walked away for a reason. And when you're given a second chance and still miss the mark, maybe it's time to ask whether the microphone is the problem, or the person holding it. There's something unsettling about watching two incredibly successful people surround themselves with yes voices and mistaking it for authenticity. The Montecito bubble seems filled with carefully curated friendships, personal stylists, and business consultants, all orbiting around two people desperate to control the narrative. Genuine dialogue requires dissent, but when your closest collaborators are paid to agree with you, it stops being a conversation and starts being a brand meeting. Their circle doesn't challenge them, it mirrors them. And the result is a podcast episode where praise is so mutual, it feels like a performance more than a podcast. Audiences pick up on that, and they tune out. When Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties, the promise was compelling. A modernized public life free from the institution's constraints, focused on real change. What we got? A book tour, a docuseries, a podcast about the essence of jam, and an e-commerce platform with shipping delays. They had the perfect chance to become the voice of their generation. Two people with unique access, global reach, and a fresh perspective. But instead of building something transformative, they built a brand. One that, so far, feels hollow. The truth is, when you remove the palace walls and royal protocols, what you're left with is just two individuals armed with a production team and a list of grievances. So what did we learn? Meghan's podcast isn't empowering. It's exhausting. Harry's legal drama isn't noble. It's indulgent. And the rebrand of the Sussexes into a voice of the people operation? Well, the people are tuning out. If you liked this breakdown, hit like, drop a comment, especially if you caught something I didn't. And subscribe for more reactions where we cut through the fluff and talk about what's actually going on behind the headlines. And hey, Meghan, if you're bottling your essence, can you label it next time? We just want to know what we're being sold. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more breakdowns like this.